I'm going to go over the Math 3 Unit 6, Worksheet 5, Rational Exponents. Here we're asked to simplify each expression, and the first one is 81 to the 1/2 power. When you have a fractional exponent, the denominator of that fractional exponent is the index of the root, or indicating what kind of root you have. So here we have the square root of 81 to the 1st power, or the square root of 81, so 9's our answer. Number 3, we have a negative exponent, and to get rid of your negative exponent, so to get rid of that negative exponent, we put a 1 over 16 to the 1/4 power. And then that 1/4 power means the index is 4 for the root, so this is 1 over the 4th root of 16 to the 1st power. And 16 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. If you break that down, you get 4 2's, so we end up with 1 over 2 for our answer. Three to the 1/2 times 3 to the 1/2. The base is the same. The base is 3. So when the base is the same, you can multiply by adding your exponents. When you do that, you keep the base the same. So don't multiply 3 times 3. Keep it 3. And you're going to add the 1/2 with the 1/2. And you end up with 3 to the power of 1, which is 3. On 7, you're going to want to change that 0.8 to a fraction. When you read that 0.8, that's 8/10. And so the easy way to make that a fraction is just to write 8 over 10. We can reduce that fraction to 4 over 5. So what this is saying is we got the 5th root of negative 32, and then we're going to raise that answer to the 4th power. And 32 is a perfect number raised to the 5th power. It's negative 2 to the 5th power. If we break this down, we can take a look here. But if you try it, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, you end up with negative 32. So this is equivalent to negative 2, still to the 4th power. And negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, or negative 2 to the 4th power, is going to be positive 16 for an answer. 100 to the negative 1.5 power. First, get rid of that negative exponent. So that's 1 over 100 to the 1.5. Second, change the decimal to a fraction. So that's 1 over 100, and that's 15 over 10. Reduce that fraction. 1 over 100, divide by 5, you end up with 3 over 2. So that means 1 over the square root of 100 to the 3rd power. Square root of 100 is 10, so that means 1 over 10 to the 3rd power. And 10 to the 3rd power is a 1 with 3 zeros, or 1,000. So this answer is 1 1,000ths. Number 11, we're looking at the cube root of 1,000 squared divided by the square root of 100. Well, the cube root of 1,000 is 10, and we're going to need to square that, divided by the square root of 100, which is 10. So you have 10 squared over 10, which is 10. So here, next one, we have two negative exponents. We can multiply those negative exponents with each other, and you get 27 to the positive 2/3 power. This means the cube root of 27 to the second power. 27 is 3 times 3 times 3, so the cube root of 27 is 3. And when you raise that to the second power, you get 9. Write each expression in radical form. So this is y to the 125 over, I had to move the decimal twice, so over 100. I'm going to reduce that, and I'm going to divide by 100. We divide by 25. 25 goes into 125 5 times, and goes into 100 4 times. So this is the fourth root of y to the fifth power. Number 23, we're to write each expression in exponential form. So everything's raised to the sixth power, but we want the cube root of it, so this is 2xy in parentheses to the 6 over 3 power. Now that 6 over 3 can reduce, so we get 2xy to the second power. And we can go ahead and square everything, and we end up with 4x squared y squared. Number 27, everything in parentheses is raised to the 2/3 power. And this 125 has the power of 1. So I'm going to take that 2/3 and multiply it to each of the powers inside of that parentheses. So we end up with 125 to the 2/3 power times x to the, when you multiply 6 and 2/3, you're going to multiply the 6 only with the 2, and you get 12 over 3. And then y to the 2 over 6 power. The 125 to the 2/3 power means the cube root of 125 squared. X to the 4th power, 12 divided by 3 is 4. And y to the 1/3 power. And to reduce that fraction. Cube root of 125 is 5, because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And that's still squared. X to the 4th, y to the 1/3. And here we're to write each expression in simplest form. It doesn't say if we can have fractional exponents or if they want it in root form, so we have the freedom to do what we want here. So I'm going to finish with 25x to the 4th, y to the 1/3. You could also write 25x to the 4th, cube root of y. Those are the two forms you can put the answer in. Number 33. We want to divide two things that have a same base, x, and have exponents. And when you do this, you keep the base the same, and you subtract your exponents. So 3/4 minus 1/8. To subtract fractions, we need a common denominator, so I'm going to change that first fraction to 6 over 8 minus 1 over 8. And we end up with x to the 5 over 8th power. So that could be your answer, or you can write it as the 8th root of x to the 5th. Number 35. I have a negative exponent. I'm going to move everything in the bottom to the top to make it a positive exponent. I get x to the 1/2 times y to the positive 3/4 all over 1, but I'm not going to write that, still to the power of 8. I'm going to take that 8 and multiply it with the two exponents, and I get x to the 8 over 2, y to the 24 over 4. And then reduce the fractions and get x to the power of 4, y to the power of 6, and that's your answer. Number 39. 27 right now has a power of 1, 48 has a power of 1, and I'm going to take that 3/2 power and multiply it with each piece. So we get 27 to the 3/2 power. Actually, probably a better idea before we do that is to reduce, because that 27 over 48 will reduce. They're both divisible at least by 3, right? So if you divide 27 by 3, you end up with 9. Oops. X to the 4th. When you divide 48 by 3, you get 16 y squared. And all of this is still to the 3/2 power. So after doing that, now let's raise each of these individual powers, the 1, the 4, the 1, and the 2, by the 3/2 power, by multiplying each of those by 3/2. And we end up with the square, 9 to the 3/2, x to the 12/2, over 16 to the 3/2, and y to the 6/2. 9 to the 3/2 means the square root of 9 cubed. X to the 12 over 2 reduces x to the 6. Square root of 16 to the 3rd power. And y to the 3rd, which is 3 cubed x to the 6th over 4 cubed y to the 3rd, which is 27 x to the 6th over 64 y to the 3rd.